Hello. Oscar Wilde said that the worst thing than being talked about is not being talked about. Now, I'm not sure that's true when it comes to the trans community. I've come across some stats which I'll share with you, and you can make your own mind up afterwards, about the increase in mentions of the trans community in the British media in the last couple of years. Now, of course, exposure is good, and of course, if the trans community were involved in this extra exposure, that would be a good thing, but you'll not be surprised to hear that it isn't. It's certainly an indication of how weaponized the community has been and how much they are part of the machinations of sort of scrupulous political classes, and how toxic really the narrative in the UK is at the moment regarding trans community. So I'm just going to read you some stats. I'm sorry, I can't remember them, so my eyes are going to drift over there. And make your own mind up, okay? So here we go. So according to the Independent Press Standards Organisation, there has been a 400% increase in UK media coverage of trans topics over the last 5 years. 400% increase. And if you read the British media, you'll notice that there are very few actually trans or queer joy stories, for that matter. Most of them are very negative. Then, on average, 224 stories related to trans issues were published per month in the last year, compared to only 34 in any given month in 2014. So in 10 years, we've gone from about 34 trans stories a month to 224. Additionally, research by Lancaster University found that the British press increased its coverage of stories about trans people over the last 6 years, writing roughly about 3.5 times more articles. Also, the mention of transgender children are 23 times more common in 2018-2019 than they were in 2012. Now, what does that tell us? And by the way, this is research from universities. It's Independent Press Standards Organisation and Mermaids as well produced some of the statistics. So it's not just me going on the internet finding things out from conspiracy theorists. I think it's good to have increased exposure and these stories and these issues being discussed in the public media. We know that by and large they're incredibly toxic. So yes, I think there is some evidence out there, if you think about it, that the trans community is being used in political discourse, and not because people care about trans rights or anything like that, but because they're trying to make and score their own cheap political points. So I suppose trans rights are human rights, and ultimately they're not a community that we can just bandy about and pretend they are some sort of evil, nefarious conspiracy that are out there to get us. I think that's just a narrative of certain sections of the right-wing media are trying to portray. There is no trans agenda. There are people that just want to live happily and be left alone, pretty much. So I suppose the message there is don't believe everything you read in the papers.